Hello. You can go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Call tonight's regular council meeting to order. Recommendation that the agenda for the regular council meeting of January 24th, 2022 be adopted with amendment of replacing item 5A and removal of item 5B. Moved by Councillor Adie, seconded by Councillor Randhawa. Anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3A, recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting of January 10th, 2022 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Skelton Morvan. Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3B, recommendation that the minutes of the public hearing meeting of January 10th, 2022 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Adie. Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. And item 3C, recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting of January 10th, 2022 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Skelton Morvan, seconded by Councillor Randhawa. Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, first up, we have a report from the Director of Operations and Intergovernmental Relations regarding our major projects monthly update. Go ahead, Mr. Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have provided staff with and council with an update of a visual of where the projects are at. I'll just go through them quickly. There hasn't been a lot of major project progress over the last month or so, just because of the holiday break, and a lot of the consultants and teams working on these were also away and taking a break, but there has been some progress. So the Third Avenue extension is approximately 15% complete. We are doing new geotechnical investigation on that project. We have found some issues with some geotech there that we need to investigate to either preload or look at digging out. The Eat Street project is about 95% complete. The project is just waiting for a little bit more of electrical, but other than that, it's ready to go. The snow and the ice obviously stalled that project. We're just going to finally do a final grade and open it up very soon. The new landfill cell, I'm very pleased to say, is complete. So we are just submitting our DOCP, which is our design, operation, and closure plan to the Ministry of Environment, and we're looking to receive that back soon, and we can start putting refuse into that new cell. The RCMP detachment is approximately 15% complete. The RCMP bylaw is currently with council in consideration. The recycling program, 100% complete. We are very pleased with the rollout of that. We are still working out some kinks in it, but we are pleased to say that the program we feel is a success, and staff are very pleased with how that's going with the community. Our SCADA system upgrade is about 5% complete. So we have done some immediate SCADA upgrades that were required due to some failures in our system, and the overall SCADA project is still in design, and we hope to have that completed by the end of 2022 or early 2023. And just a reminder for everybody is the SCADA system is the communication between our water system and our sewer system, and making sure that everything is functioning like pumps and all of that. And so it's a very, very important piece of that. Sewer treatment, approximately 5% complete. Staff is applying for additional grant funding to lessen the burden on the community. So this is our innovative green wastewater treatment system. It is a wetland system and very innovative, and we are getting support right now from the FCM, and we're going for support with the province. Our submarine line is approximately 5% complete. Staff are working on an RFP and envision that going out within 30 days. The water treatment facility, approximately 10% complete. We have done all of our background data to get our fingerprint. We are now going out for an RFP for design of that treatment facility, and then after that we will be working with the province on value engineering. We envision that to be on the BC bid within 30 days. The waterfront project, approximately 15% complete. The staff has completed several milestones, and we are continuing with the project. We are working on a project development agreement to advance into the construction stage. And I'm very pleased to say that our Woodworth Dam is approximately 90% complete. We've seen some very good progress in the last couple of months, even with the weather. We were still able to get the project out of the ground. It's taking shape, and we are building on the main part of the dam right now, and we are looking to have that operational for the end of March, early April, and commission it, and be back on our main water supply sometime in April. So where we're at now, we are out of a lot of the flood risks and a lot of the other risks associated with weather. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions from council? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, we have a report from our city manager regarding the development variance permit DVP 2107 for 2017 7th Avenue East.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This application has been before council, but it was put on hold until council considered a policy for a local service area. Now that policy review has been completed, and council has elected not to proceed with adopting a policy at this point. The applicant has been in contact with staff in terms of providing the laneway improvement that's recommended here, and has agreed to pay for the improvements. It's approximately $5,000 of work to make the laneway usable and to a municipal standard. The applicant has requested 2 variances to remind council to the zoning bylaw, and the R2 zone requirements for accessory buildings are a maximum of 3.6 meters and a maximum floor area of 70 meters. The applicant is proposing a height of 5.2 meters instead of 3.6, and a floor area of 72.5 square meters, slightly over the bylaw requirement. So at this point, we are recommending that council proceed with the statutory public notice for this variance application.
Okay, anyone want to move that? Moved by Councillor Niche, second by Councillor Cunningham. Discussion? Okay, anybody opposed? That motion's carried. Next item. Sorry, just looking at the recommendations there. Okay, so next item is, just to be clear, we're moving the recommendation as written then. And there's that second part there that says that if council approves a development variance permit, council requires pursuant to section 506, the applicant upgrade the laneway to city standards from 7th Avenue East to applicant's rear property. That's how everyone's understanding that. Okay, just making sure. Okay, next we have a report from our Chief Financial Officer regarding the electoral approval for loan authorization bylaw.
Thank you. At the January 10th regular meeting, council introduced and gave 3 readings to the police detachment loan authorization bylaw. The community charter specifies how a loan authorization bylaw may obtain electoral approval before it can be considered by council for adoption. There are 2 ways to do this, either through assent, also referred to as a referendum, or through the alternate approval process. A referendum requires a question to be voted on with a simple majority deciding. Voting eligibility is the same for voting at a municipal election, with the cost associated for the referendum being similar at around $35,000. Voting day needs to occur within 80 days of provincial approval of the bylaw. There is a general election being held this year. If council chooses to combine the referendum question with the election in October to save the additional cost, it may choose to do so. However, a delay in the process for the loan may increase the cost of the project overall due to the current construction cost and supply chain uncertainties. The alternate approval process requires a public notification of the intent to borrow funds and a time period for voting members of the community to state their opposition. The process takes 6 weeks from first public notification. If more than 10% of eligible voters state their opposition, then the matter proceeds to a referendum. The cost of the alternate approval process is estimated at $7,000. By choosing which process. Elector approval is sought. Staff can proceed through the loan authorization process required to obtain necessary funding for the police detachment project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody who wants to make a motion? Councillor Niche.
I support the motion that we go with an alternate approval. The reason why that's appropriate is we have used in the past. It is a good tool, a quick tool to keeping going.
Just 1 second, sorry. Is everybody else hearing jarbling from Councillor Niche?
The auto-tune version of Councillor Niche, yeah.
Okay.
I'll turn off.
Sorry, Councillor Niche, you're, yeah, it's cutting out a little bit.
Can you hear me better? Can you hear
Yeah.
me better now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what you heard.
Just start from the beginning. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to put forward a motion that we use the alternative approval process. I feel it's a tool to move forward, more efficiently on this project versus going to referendum, and also going to referendum on something that I feel is something that we have to do regardless. If we don't do this project, it's going to be built regardless of what we say, and then we'll be sent a bill. So to drag the city out for a referendum on something that realistically we have to build, I just don't see the sense in spending that money doing that. And if there is a strong opposition to the project, then people can still come forward and say their opposition by filling out the form for the denying of the alternative approval process. So that would be my motion.
Okay, moved by Councillor Niche. Is that seconding that, Councillor Morrow? Okay. Discussion. Councillor Morrow.
I'm seconding Councillor Niche's motion just for the exact reason that he just gave, because for me, one of those most important considerations on whether or not to do an alternative approval process versus the referendum is the fact that the new detachment is legally mandated, as Councillor Niche said, and I kind of framed it a different way in my own mind. It's beyond the fact that the RCMP has given years of notice, ample notice, and that they can go build it themselves. But essentially, what that means to me is it means that this decision, whether or not to borrow $25 million for this purpose, it's not a yes/no question that is suited for a referendum. It's really an and/or decision. It's, do we want to pay $25 million and have local control over the construction, or do we not want to pay $25 million and then get billed later for potentially a much higher amount? So for that reason, I'm in favor of using the alternative approval process. And again, just to underscore what Councillor Niche said on that process, it still does leave the opportunity that if there is a significant enough opposition to the proposed plan at the former Jehovah's Witness location, if there is significant enough opposition, that we could potentially pair the referendum with the upcoming municipal elections if enough people registered their opposition through the alternative approval process. So for that reason, I seconding Councillor Niche's motion and would be voting for the alternative approval process. Thank you.
Other comments? Councillor Scott Morvan, then Councillor Cunningham.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo a lot of the notions that were said, and definitely on the and/or train as well, because either we have control over the process here on this front, or we end up with the bill at the tail end. So I will be in favor of this as well. So thanks.
Councillor Cunningham.
I'm in support of it for the same reasons as everyone else, but people got to realize that if we're opposed to this, the location, or to the fact that we've got to build it, they've got to realize that if we don't have control of the building and where it is or how we're going to build it, we're going to get a bill for a lot of frills that we don't need in a police station. Like it's happened in other towns, other cities where they built it and just gave them the bill, and it was a lot more expensive than what it's going to be. So for this reason, is my main reason for that. And I think the location's a good location, right next to the courthouse, right center of town and everything else. So yeah, I totally support this.
Any other comments? Councillor Randhawa?
Yeah, same. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm in favor of this motion. Same reasons are already been talked, and location is great. So yeah, I'm in favor of this motion.
Any other comments? Okay, I think all the major points have been made. And just to add to that, if they did send us a bill, we'd have to go out for a loan for that bill anyways. So we'd be doing this again with a higher bill. So we are in the situation we're in. Unfortunately, there's mandated costs on municipalities. Okay, if there's no other discussion, call question. Is there anybody opposed? Okay, motion's carried. We'll start a public engagement campaign, education campaign for the community, and that'll be available to the community soon. Next up, 5A, we have a report from our city manager regarding the zoning amendment bylaw number 3485/2022.
I need to step aside on this one.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Niche. Okay, Mr. Buchan, maybe you can provide some explanation actually for the community on this one.
Mayor. Unfortunately, there is an error in the bylaw that was drafted for this proposal. It should have specified RM2. It's specified RM1. So we need to correct that error. I want to be very clear that the proposal has not changed at all. It is the same proposal. It's for 3 units on the property. And just for further background, the applicant had 2 lots, each of them zoned as R2, so they could have had a duplex on each one. So they could have actually had 4 units on this property. He consolidated it and wants to have just 3 units. But the way that our bylaws are designed, this would require the RM2 zone. So to correct this, our initial advice was we could rescind 3rd reading and go back and amend at 2nd. However, there is new legislation that's in place now regarding public hearings. And public hearings now for proposals that are entirely consistent with the official community plan, the public hearings are not required. Council can have them if they want, but they're not required. So this is intended to streamline proposals that are consistent with the community's plan. So if council is wanting to postpone, or sorry, not proceed and have the public hearing again, and just do the bylaw readings, and I note that there is no change to the proposal. What it would need to do is simply actually give 1st and 2nd readings to an entirely new bylaw that I understand has been put on the agenda. And then we would simply send out a notice that a public hearing won't be held for that. And that notice would go to those property owners that would typically receive the notice.
Okay, so does anyone want to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Randhawa, second by Councillor Moreau. So basically this is just kind of a clerical error, I would say. And, we just did the public hearing and passed this. So theoretically, the intent has already been accomplished, but this would be just something that would have to correct it so the zone is more correct within our bylaws. So I would say that personally, I think the recommendation is appropriate given that we just finished this process and had no major issues with it. So Councillor Adie. And then Councillor Morrow.
And just for clarification, there was one public comment, and I recall when you did the preamble last time for the original bylaw, you made a statement that the concern that was being expressed by the public comment around parking was not a problem. It wasn't going to be a difficulty. And I just want to clarify that that's still the case.
Yeah, no variance will be required for this. The applicant is proposing put the required number of parking stalls on the property.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Morrow, then Councillor Cunningham.
I wanted to make the point, following up on Mr. Buchan there, that this is our first opportunity to obviously take advantage of the province's recent legislative changes. And to my reading, not only is it supposed to accelerate proposals that are already consistent with the official community plan, but their main motivation to me seemed to be to speed up development approvals for more housing supply, which is obviously relevant in this particular case. where we can save weeks and, in other cities, sometimes months of processing time. And so for the reason that not only have we done public hearing, but also the significant modernization to our official community plan, the multiple years of public engagement, it's very clear that additional housing density is a shared goal in this community so that we can build more housing supply across the entire spectrum. So for that reason, I'm in favor of staff's recommendation in this case.
Councillor Cunningham.
Well, it's nice to see where we're passing something like this and we know it's going to happen. We've passed a lot of other things and they've cleared land or done things like this, but hasn't alleviated any of the housing problem. Here we're going to have 3 units probably within the next year and a half. So, I'm in favor of it. And I don't see where parking should be an issue at all, because if the builder went ahead with RM2, you'd have 4 units instead of 3. And so you'd have more need for parking. So by downgrading to 3 units, he's actually alleviated some parking issues to begin with. So it's a win-win.
Councillor Winhour.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so I'm in favor of the motion. We already had public hearing last meeting, and the intent is still same. It's the only error, and so we need more housing, and this way we can accelerate the process. So I'm in favor of the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, is there anyone opposed? Motion's carried. We can get Councillor Niche back on the line. Okay, is there any reports, questions, or inquiries from members of council this evening? Councillor Adie, then Councillor Winhour.
Just a little curious as to what went into the decision not to have a committee of the whole section to this meeting, as we usually do in the second one of the month.
There were no items for the agenda.
Okay, Councillor Winhour.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we have winter, snow and ice. So we have now another issue, potholes popping up all over, and especially on 2nd Avenue too. So I was wondering, we have any plan for fixing before the paving season starts?
Thank you, Councillor. So yes, we actually fired up our asphalt recycler plant on Friday. So it's the first time of the year that we've used it, and we'll continue to use it. We have a lot of tailings and scrap asphalt that we can put in that machine to get hot mix. So, we are just coming out of our winter season, and I think that we're not out of it yet. We usually have another cold snap and another little bit of snow that comes within the next few weeks, and sometimes we even have it as late as the end of February. We will be going out and doing some sweeping in the next little bit, just to get the large amounts of salt or large amounts of sand off of the road. This is because if we leave that sand and gravel on the road, it gets into our catch basins and we will have some real issues with our storm system. So we will pick some of that up over the next little bit. But yes, to answer your question, we do have our hot mix asphalt plant up and running every few days, and we are looking at potholes and to fix them when the weather is okay to do that. Thank you.
Other reports from council. Councillor Cunningham.
On the committee of the whole meeting, if we're going to continue with Zoom meetings, I think we should find a way that people can actually phone in or Zoom in for a committee of the whole meeting. I think it's very important to give the community that opportunity to speak if they want to. So I'd like staff to look into if we could make some sort of arrangement for committee of the whole be part of a Zoom meeting. It might be a little problematic, but we could always delay or something like that. So if there's something said that shouldn't be said and find a way to monitor it to a degree or whatever. But I really think it's important we have the committee of the whole available for the community.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Okay, is there other comments or questions from council? Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn and reconvene our recessed in camera. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Scott Morvan. Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Have a great evening, everyone. We'll see you in February.